Right then, morning. Welcome back to another vid. I've just noticed something there, and I've noticed this before, but I've never touched upon it in a vid. But just above my top lip, you can see it looks quite dark. That's a little tiny cluster of dark hair. That's all that is. It's not a spot. Not that it matters, I'm just saying. But it's really kind of prominent. But you don't really see it in person, but on camera, it picks it up. How bizarre. I'm glad you can't see all the white and the grey, which is definitely starting to come in over recent years, but whatever. Sign of maturity. So, welcome back to another vid, like I say, after that little strange introduction. So yeah, going back about a couple of weeks, I did a pickup vid, and it was for a boxed Super Nintendo action pack. It was the one I had as a kid back in 1992, the one well, not the actual model I wanted, but the system I really wanted back in 1992. The SNES was massive. I think it came out in around about April, give or take. And I'm just reciting the story. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, please feel free to go and watch it if you want. If you don't, whatever. But you're missing out if you don't. But yeah, I touched upon the fact that, I, along with all my other friends, we had to wait all year, basically, for the Super Nintendo to come out because we were only, 14 years of age at Christmas 92. And where could we get any money from before that? We didn't have a job. I think I'd given up my paper round before then. But even then, it was just like once a week, a couple of quid or whatever. So it was only Christmas that I could have got that. It's a brilliant system, and when I walk into this room, which is like the spare room, if you like, I kind of like to kid myself thinking it's a games room, but it's not really. But every time I walk in this room and I see the action pack box, which is down there, I know you can't see it, I see the scope, I see the system, I see the games, the multicoloured PAL spine boxes especially, and it really takes me back. It makes me feel so nostalgic. Every single time I see it, it's incredible. So that was that. I got that in 1992, and I absolutely love it. But there was a rival, of course. We all know where this is going. I think I've probably got to put it in the banner, actually, so it'll be obvious what system it is. So I'll just drop the suspense. But there was a rival at the time to the Super Nintendo, and of course it was the Sega Megadrive. Now, I played on one prior, a couple of times, to buying my Super Nintendo in 1992, or having it bought for me at Christmas. And I liked it, I enjoyed it. But I had an Atari ST, and for me, I had all the games, copied games, I had hundreds of games, I had some originals as well. I liked those role-playing games and adventure games which you couldn't get, or not very often, although I've kind of got one in a minute I'll show you, but which were more prominent for the 16-bit home computers because of the mouse control and the keyboard and all that kind of stuff. Whereas with the console games, they were generally speaking more arcadey, kind of, pick the controller up and go, plug and go, pick up and go, whatever the phrase is. And so yeah, I had my ST, so I never really had the urge to buy or have bought for me a Mega Drive, even though I really liked it. Now, my cousin had one, and every now and again he'd bring it round my house. He's younger than me, but he'd bring it round mine. Or when we went to his house, we'd play on it. And we're talking the early classics, like, Sonic, Altered Beast, Dick Tracy, Kid Chameleon, E-SWAT, Moonwalker. He had all those early games. And some of them, well, all of them actually I really, really liked. But it was never enough for me to want one. And I was just content just playing his. But then it got to 1993, Christmas of 93. And for whatever reason, even though it had been out a long time, the best part of 3 years, the Mega Drive, at least in my social circles, in my school, in my neighbourhood, if you like, it was really, really popular. I don't know why. I don't know why the Christmas of 93 would have been so prominent when it came to sales for the Mega Drive. Maybe a game came out in particular. I'm struggling to think of what it was. I mean, it wasn't Street Fighter 2 or the Championship Edition. Didn't that come out the year after that, 94? I'm not certain. But anyway, I really wanted a Mega Drive. And again, I can't remember exactly why I wanted one. This is the thing. It may have been just the case of all my friends were getting one, and I knew of the games that were out, but I can't think of one game that spurred me on to wanting a Mega Drive. With the SNES, it was Street Fighter 2. I wanted a SNES for Street Fighter 2, and a load of others, but that was the main one. With the Mega Drive, it might have just been a whole cluster of games, such as the Sonic. Sonic 2 came out in 92, was it? Or maybe that was 93. I'm not sure. But maybe that was one of the games I really wanted to get. Bugsy the Bobcat, I think, came out on both the SNES and the Mega Drive, which I liked. So that can't have been a reason for getting one. For someone who's really good with nostalgia and memories, I really can't quite, without sitting down and thinking about it, I can't quite remember why I wanted the Mega Drive. But anyway, I asked for one. I got one, and this is the model I got. This is the one I bought it back. You can probably see already. It's the Sega Megadrive 2, and it's the Aladdin pack. Again, absolutely brilliant condition. It was about 50 quid to send from the UK, but 50 quid, I think is pretty reasonable. Little sticker at the top there, which I just think is from just the shop. It's not, I reckon it'll probably peel off quite easily. Now, this is in mint condition, much like the SNES. It comes with all the bags, all the paraphernalia, the leaflets, the booklets, control. I think there's 2 controllers, actually. And it's in absolutely brilliant condition. Of course, it comes with a box copy of Aladdin, which I remember playing on Christmas Day, '93. And I was just absolutely blown away by it. Again, I can't remember, for someone who's so good with nostalgia, whether I asked for the Aladdin pack or not. I think I just asked for just the Sega Mega Drive. I wish I could remember. It's just absolutely ridiculous that I can't. But yeah, I absolutely love the Mega Drive. Now, I used it, obviously, throughout the rest of '93. I used it all the way through '94, and then probably until about mid to late '95. And I'll touch upon that in an upcoming vid, actually, because if anyone knows the diary vids who've been following these that I've been doing for the past 3 years, and I'm still only like 5 months into it, you'll know that I've talked about Mega Drive games that I've bought, and I think I traded it in for something, but I won't ruin the surprise, unless I've already covered that month. But you can watch that diary vid, an upcoming one within the next week or so, and you can see what I did with the Mega Drive and why. And it didn't really bother me at the time because, you know, I was using the system that I got, no spoilers, at that time as a result of swapping it. But also, late '95, I got a Sony PlayStation, and I absolutely loved that. I really wanted one, and I've touched upon it before, and I probably touched upon it in the diary as well. And I'm sure I'll probably in the future make a standalone vid on the PlayStation 1. So yeah, I basically had it for just under 2 years, the Mega Drive, first time around, even though I had history with it going back up until, like, you know, 1990, I guess, when, like I say, my cousin had one. So it's a brilliant system, and I'm really pleased to get it. And I know for some people, again, you're probably thinking, why don't you just buy a Genesis? Well, I can't. Well, I can. There's nothing physically stopping me. I've got one, actually, a loose one. But for me, when it comes to buying seriously and collecting and kind of displaying, I know I sound like a stock record, but I just want to say it just to reiterate it, and also for new people as well. New subscribers are joining all the time, and thank you very much, of course. But I do it for the nostalgia. When I look at my shelves and I see a game, a box, that box art takes me back to being a kid. And sometimes looking at that box art, picking it up and, you know, reading the manual even, and just opening it up and then closing it within a few seconds, it takes me back to a time and a place, reminds me of people, friends, family, and era, which was great. And I just really love it. I'm a sucker for that. And I can get more out of looking at a game on a shelf or just picking it up and looking at it for 5 seconds. I can get more out of that than actually playing it. And I know that might sound a bit weird, unless you know what I mean, and then obviously it isn't very weird. So yeah, I'm really pleased to get it back. And much like the SNES that I was saying before, every time I walk into this room now and I see this box, it reminds me of just Christmas morning, Christmas Day in 1993. And I just remember putting Aladdin on, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The graphics are fantastic. The sound, it was basically the music, albeit, like, you know, the digitised version from the game. And, well, I said it wasn't digitised, was it? But you know what I mean? It was really, really good. The effects, it sounded as good as, certainly as a kid. And even now, it sounds really fresh. So, really nostalgic system for me. I've got the SNES back. I've got the Mega Drive back. They're the two that I originally had back in the day. And yeah, I'm really back on board the Mega Drive and the SNES. Now, I can't swear that you're going to see pickups when it comes to PAL, Mega Drive and SNES all the time, because obviously, for the most part, I've got to import these, and it's probably going to be quite expensive. So I've got to be choosy, unless I see one which is maybe a bit average or looks interesting, and it's on eBay America. And if it's cheap and it's interesting, I might grab it. But as it stands, I've got a mammoth, not really mammoth, a paltry 4 games, and I just thought I'd show you what they are, talk a little bit about them, and we'll go from there. Now, all of these actually work on the Genesis, because I think all PAL games, or 99% of PAL games, work on an American Mega Drive, so a Genesis, up until around about 93, 94, you know, when those blue boxes started to come in. And then I think it switches then, whereas 99% of games before the blue boxes worked on a Genesis, I think 99% of games don't work that have a blue box on a Genesis. So So that's kind of a good thing. I don't have to plug the whole Mega Drive thing in if I don't want to. I can just have the Genesis and I can play these PAL games. So I'm pleased with that. So the first game up that I've got, there's only 4. But, you know, the whole quality over quantity thing, it won't last, but it's lasting so far. So far, so good. It's Spider-Man. It's a side-scrolling or platform side-scrolling game. I love these kind of games. These are my favourite games, pretty much of all time, quite frankly, just because of the nostalgic element. Now, this was sent to me by the 16-Bit Brothers, who haven't made a video for a while. Lovely bunch of lads. Sent me a love letter. I'm not going to read it out. Contains some filth. So, doesn't really, obviously. Just contains some really nice words. So, obviously got to keep that forever, being the old sentimentalist I am. No, it was really nice of the guys. Now, I say of the guys, I mean, I'm sure they all just weren't sitting there and they all had this idea at once. I'd hazard a guess it was either Danny or Johnny. Those are the two who, you know, I would talk to quite regularly. The other two are lovely guys as well, but I'm not going to go too far out on a limb to suggest it was Danny or Johnny who decided to send me that. Just out of the kindness of the heart. It was a lovely thing to do. And, yeah, really chuffed with it. And top lads, as you'll all know, the 16-Bit Brothers, they haven't made a video for a long, long time. Lazy. Get on it. But yeah, a really good game, and and I really like it. Next one up is The Incredible Hulk. Again, this is another platformer. You're not going to be able to work out the screenshots, so why am I bothering? I kind of like the side. Kind of purple on one side, morphs into like black, with a picture of the Hulk in the middle there, and then on the front, lovely looking chap. And yeah, so again, my favourite really kind of game. And all these are boxed, they're all complete. Most of them, bizarrely, in fact, all of them missing their hang tab. Why is that? I won't lie, it's a minor quibble. I do like them. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just that completeness, I guess. But clearly it's not the end of the world. I don't lose any sleep over it. Now, I was speaking before about the Atari ST and games that I used to really like as well, which involve a mouse and a keyboard. So strategy games, adventure games, role-playing, point-and-click. And this is one of those strategy games. And it's Powermonger, a game I used to have on the Atari ST and then latterly on the Amiga. I don't know how well it translates to the Mega Drive. I should know because I have played it before. So I should say I do know, but I've forgotten because it's been a long, long time. And I've not played this version in, well, since I've rebought it. So it will be interesting. Graphically, it looks nice. It looks basically pretty much the same as the Amiga and the ST. Because for all intents and purposes, it is the same game. But I imagine it's scaled down a little bit just simply because of the control mechanisms. You know, with using a controller as opposed to the ST and the Amiga having a mouse. So, but still, Electronic Arts, yeah, EA, and they've gone on, still making games now, and a company that a lot of people love, and a company that a lot of people hate as well. I'm kind of in the middle, sitting on the fence with those guys. So, and then last but not least, it's a game which is another side-scrolling platform. I told you they're my favourite genre, it's kind of obvious. 3 out of 4 games I've got are this genre. And it's called, if I'm pronouncing it right, Shakan. Shakan. So, yeah, and it looks really good. Once again, why am I bothering showing you the back? And I just love that kind of dark, gritty, blue, dark, purpley kind of screens to it. And there's a side and sticker on the front. And it's quite a striking image as well. So that's that. So I've only got 4 games. But, you know, what's the rush? I've waited a long, long time, well, since 1993, to buy the system back, or this particular version of the system back, I should say. And, yeah, if I ever sell this Mega Drive 2-pack or the SNES Action Pack, then you can call me an idiot, because I really don't think I ever will, unless I see one which is in absolutely amazing condition, like mint, maybe never been used, and then I may buy that one. But you will never, ever have me come on camera and say, all right, guys, I've decided to sell my SNES and Mega Drive. That will just never happen, because it's so nostalgic to me. Even if I go through phases in the future, you know, where I just maybe go off gaming a little bit, or for a long time, I will never sell them. They will always be there, because one day I will constantly go back to them. They just mean too much to me. The SNES and the Mega Drive, for me, are my favourite systems, probably my favourite systems, little disclaimer there, of all time. And do you know what? I know it's a little bit controversial. Maybe I'm just saying this because I'm getting carried away in the heat of the moment of just recently getting my Mega Drive back. But I'd probably say the Mega Drive just edges it. Just edges it. And I know that's controversial. So maybe that should be a tag vid. I should ask who prefers the Sega Mega Drive and or the Super Nintendo. Or maybe not. Maybe I've just done the tag there. If you want to answer it, you can, or whatever. Do what you want. Or maybe someone's already asked it. It wouldn't surprise me, because it's a gaming community and we're all asking the same questions all the time. But I don't have a problem with that, because obviously new subscribers, new members, new users are appearing all the time. And just because me or you maybe created and took part in a tag vid from 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, doesn't mean to say it can't be done again. Because, like I say, new people are coming along. They weren't around back then, so they want to have their say. And, of course, we may have changed our mind. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with, these repetitive questions knocking around, even though it's kind of funny sometimes to see a question doing the rounds for the 3rd, 4th, 5th time, because it's like, I've literally watched this 5 times or 5,000 times, whatever it may be. So, anyway, really pleased to get the Sega Megadrive 2 pack back into the old collection. It makes me feel really nostalgic. And even if I am getting carried away with myself and preferring the Mega Drive today, and maybe I'll be back to the SNES tomorrow, who knows. But either way, I love this system. The Sega Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo are brilliant. And let me just the last thing I'll say on this, actually. What I really love, and I've touched upon this before, but what I really love, always have, even back in the day, always will love, is how you would get a game that would come out on the Sega Mega Drive, and you get the same game, or same title would come out on the SNES, but more often than not exclusively, but more often than not, it would be a completely different experience. It was almost justification for going out and buying the SNES and the Mega Drive version, because they were completely different. I mean, even Aladdin was a different game. It looked different. It played different. It had different levels, or some different levels anyway. And you could justify going out and getting them both. Because it wasn't basically... It's not like today where you get like the Xbox One version and the PlayStation 4. They're basically the same bloody game. But back then in the Mega Drive and the SNES days, it was completely different. And I love that. And I really do wish, if there's one thing I could change about modern gaming, that developers would do that. I understand why they don't, but I would love to see, like, let me just think of something like a Battlefield, random. A Battlefield game coming out on the Mega Drive, on the Xbox One, and then the PlayStation 4 version maybe having completely different levels, and it would force you to go out. Not force you, I guess. It would entice you to go out and buy both systems and end this stupid kind of rivalry, this fanboyism which is knocking around, which did knock around back in the day, but it wasn't as fierce and vitriolic as it is these days. It just seems silly. Back then it was banter, it was rivalry, whereas these days it's got a lot of aggression behind it, and it's just so unnecessary. He says, as someone in his mid to late 30s. So yeah, the SNES and the Mega Drive, brilliant systems, my favourite ever really, and I'm just really pleased to be back into the scene. So until my next vid, and that'll be sometime within the next few days, I guess. Thanks for watching. See you later.